Hi again. I'm going to run through really quickly on how easy it is to use the new Blackboard Collaborate Ultra feature so that we can do virtual classrooms and virtual office hours. Now you can see on your screen, I again have the general course shell just pulled up with the virtual classroom link in the menu. I'm going to click that virtual classroom link and you'll see that it opens up a brand new browser for me. Now, if you, when I actually enter, you see it's rendering. If you actually are presented with a screen that asks you to download any files, you need to go back to the other video that is labeled Adding and Removing Menu Items and watch that, and it will walk you through removing that old Blackboard Collaborate and installing the new Ultra version. So here in our virtual classroom area, you can see there are some options here. First, I can just jump into a course room that's already set up and available. But if you want to schedule sessions that you can share links to in your course content or email links to sessions in your students, you can actually schedule a session here, but it isn't necessary. We can click this course room right here and it jumps us right over into a virtual classroom. If you'll notice the little hamburger menu up here, once your sessions are finished, if you choose to record them, students can always access all the recordings by clicking this menu item here. So they won't automatically see recordings when they jump into the virtual classroom. They will have to click this menu item and choose the option for seeing all of the recordings that are available to them. Now, Blackboard can take up to a few hours to actually convert your class recording into a viewable file that the students can check out later. So don't worry if you look over into the recordings the minute your course session is done and you don't see anything. It can take a few hours before Blackboard can render it. So let's go ahead and click the course room and actually enter the course area. So here we are in our virtual classroom area. So let's take a look at a few important points that we need to check out and even to orient our students to. First thing I want you to notice are the three buttons that you see at the very bottom of the screen. We've got a microphone, a webcam, and a raise hand. So make sure that your microphone and your webcam are turned on, and you may also need to remind your students to turn on their webcam or their microphone if they actually want to interact with you in this virtual classroom setting. The other button down here at the bottom is a raise hand button, and you might want to encourage your students to use that if they want to interact with the classroom. Otherwise, you'll have students talking over each other and nobody will be able to hear or understand anything. So up here at the top, we have this hamburger menu. Very important. Blackboard doesn't automatically start recording when you enter the classroom, and that can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. Now, the good part about that is it gives you a few seconds to make sure that your webcam is working and that your microphone is working, and you don't need to do any additional technical setup for those things. It gives you time to actually pull up PowerPoint files or any other files you want to share with your students. I usually don't start recording until the first student actually enters the classroom. But don't forget to start recording. The downside to not auto recording is if you get excited that your first student has entered the classroom and you start talking to the student, you might forget to start recording the session. So maybe make yourself a post-it note, put it on the corner of your screen or something to remind yourself to start recording your sessions. You can see all of the other options here in the menu, but the main one, start recording. Make sure you do that. Then we have this purple Collaborate pane where we have all of our settings and all of our tools for actually managing our classroom. So first, if you're going to use microphone and camera, and why wouldn't you? That's the whole point of having the virtual classroom. You'll want to click this button to run some tests and make sure that your microphone and that your camera are actually working. When you click that, it runs an audio test. It's telling me I sound great, so I'm going to say yes, my microphone is working. And then I'm going to click over here, and this is the secondary camera on my laptop. Yes, it's working. You do have the option, if your students don't have access to even a cell phone, because they can use their cell phones to interact with this as well. If they're using a phone, a home phone, or maybe an office phone, they can call in and listen and participate that way. And most of us have actually called into web conferences and used that kind of tool before, so that's available to us here. So there are some other notification and session settings that I encourage you to explore to see if you want to make any changes there. I generally don't. The other big button that I use quite a bit is this Share Content button. So click that. And here we see I can either share a blank whiteboard, and if you teach a math class or teach an econ class where you're drawing charts a lot and want to use a standard whiteboard, you can have a whiteboard. You can actually share your application screen similar to what I'm doing here. I use this in my computer class so that I can demonstrate certain skills in Excel or Access that might be confusing to students. Or you can just, as I'm doing here, help them browse a website, maybe show them how to use the library's databases and how to search for things in the database. There's lots of potential for sharing your application screen with your students. And you'll notice, just like you're seeing here, when you share your application screen, your students will still be able to see your image on your webcam as you do it and hear you narrate what you're doing. What you might also do is share files. And in this situation, you'll have to add the file first. Like if I wanted to use a PowerPoint presentation in this particular course, I would use this button to browse for a PowerPoint file, and then it would add the file in this list right here. So before your class actually gets started, you can preload several different files. Maybe you have a sample assignment you want to work through with them, or perhaps, and then go back and forth from a PowerPoint as well. So you can add all of your files here, and whichever one you want to share, you'll click, and then use this button down here to tell it to share it now. So those are things that I use most often. So I'm going to go back. You can play with some of these other tools as well. Notice you've got breakout groups. So if you have a larger class and you want to assign students to collaborate on their own and then come back and share what they came up with, just like we do in a regular classroom, we can manage those things here. Polling also allows you to ask a question to see how many students remembered something that you talked about a little earlier, or maybe have an opinion on a particular ethical discussion that you're having. There are lots of options here. So all of these things are located here in this purple Collaborate menu here. When you are finished with your course session, don't forget to come up here to the menu item and tell it to stop recording, because you don't want it to continue. Just make sure that you don't stop the recording until all the students have left the session, and you'll see their images leaving your course session as they go. I wouldn't stop the recording until they were all finished and you were ready to actually exit the session yourself. So once you get that finished up and you're finished with your session and ready to exit, you'll see a little box up here. Since I haven't really been recording and nobody's been in here, you'll see a little box here that allows you the option of exiting the course session, and then you will exit the course session. Just remember that the recording, any recordings that you make, won't be available for a few hours, so don't panic if you go to the recordings and you don't see it right away. It'll be there. Just give it a chance. I would recommend encouraging your students to come back and watch recordings. If you want, you can even download recordings and send them to people if you want them, or save them somewhere else. But there are a lot of options, a lot of flexibility in this Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. So I hope this tutorial has been helpful to you, and I hope that you have fun playing around in your virtual classrooms and your virtual office hours. Best of luck. Remember, I'm always here if you have any questions.